Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. My views on MPs are well known to anybody who watches this channel regularly. They're all low-life scum, greedy, grasping people out to grab as much as they can for themselves. There are, of course, some exceptions. On Labour's side, there's Rosie Duffield, and on the Tory side, there's Miriam Cates. But these are two exceptionally bright, shining stars, otherwise in a sea full of murky crap. And so there are various rules in place to stop these greedy, grasping lowlifes from grabbing everything they can. And the backbenchers are subject to a set of rules where if they receive goods or services or things or freebies over a certain amount, they have so many days in which they have to declare them to parliamentary authorities so that, some semblance of transparency is there. And they can say, oh no, yes, I did receive this. I immediately declared that I'd received it, and it was valued at, say, £200. Yes, I did. It was an invite to a show, whatever. It's there. It's out in the open. They can say, yes, I received it, and I've declared that I've received it. And you may not agree with them receiving it and taking it. However, they have at least declared it open. But those rules do not extend to government ministers or to ministerial colleagues and things like that. They only exist for the backbenchers to abide by. So a case of do as I say, not as I do. There was an attempt to change the parliamentary rules so that these rules applied to all MPs, not just backbenchers. So anyone involved in government would have to obey the same rules. And that vote was last night. I'll give you three guesses what happened. You didn't need three guesses, I see. That's right. They voted it down. No government wants to have to abide by openness and transparency when it comes to what they can get for nothing. My views on MPs has not changed. Let's look at this article. So, greedy ministers block attempts to make them be more transparent about the lavish freebies they receive as part of their jobs as MPs sign off new standards and rules for the House of Commons. The Tories and the DUP voted down an amendment on standards last night. They would have aligned rules on freebies and perks for ministers with those for backbench MPs. And Commons leader Penny Mordaunt said the government would bring more parity. Well, you had your chance on bringing more parity last night, and you decided, no, we can't possibly have parity. We can't possibly bring anything in that sort of shows the general public the sort of things that we get on a regular basis for free. Because they're all greedy, grasping bastards, really, aren't they? The government has blocked an attempt to force ministers to be more open and transparent about lavish hospitality they receive as part of the job. The Tories and the DUP voted down an amendment which would bring rules on freebies and perks for members of the government into line with those for backbench MPs. And the Commons last night backed recommendations from the Committee on the Standards aimed at strengthening the MP's code of conduct. They should receive nothing. Any MP offered a gift should refuse it. Any MP accepting an offered gift should be prosecuted for corruption. But they're not going to do that, are they? Anyway, in a free vote, more than 200 MPs opposed measures that would see ministers asked to register with parliamentary authorities any third-party hospitality worth more than £300 within 28 days. It should be any third-party hospitality worth more than, say, a bottle of wine. Let's say £10, right? Anything over £10 they should have to declare. I'd say £10 is fine because come Christmas somebody comes up and says, oh look, thanks very much, there you go, have a bottle of wine. That's fine. Or a bottle of scotch. Let's say £20, a bottle of scotch, right? Anything over £20 they should have to acknowledge, write down. And it should be 28 days later. It should be within 72 hours. It's all doable online. It should be within 72 hours of receiving it. They have to declare it. And anything they have received and they don't declare is prosecutable under corruption laws. And if you did that, we'd have a lot cleaner parliament. But of course, they're never, ever in a million years going to vote for that. Anyway, the Commons voted 239 to 135, a majority 104, not to back an amendment which would have ensured change. That's a majority of 104 to keep secrets and keep private the freebies and gifts they are given simply for their job. They are corrupt. Is it any wonder that people's views on MPs is so strikingly low? Commons leader Penny Mordaunt promised the government would work to ensure more parity between how MPs and ministers are required to declare interests. Well, that's a lie, because she had the opportunity last night to do that parity, to have that vote, pass that vote and say everybody's equal. And they chose not to. So to come afterwards and say, oh, well, actually, no, we're going to. Well, that's bullshit, because you had your chance and you blew it, because you're all greedy, greedy people. Labour Chair and Committee on Standards Chris Bryant had urged MPs to back his amendment, telling the Commons all MPs should be treated equally under the rule, just as every member of our society should be treated equally under the law. Chris Bryant, picture of him on the left there. Again, one of those brighter ones, one of the actual rarities in Parliament, an honest MP. They are very few and far between. So there's Bernard Jenkins. Actually, he's also one of the more honest ones. He's saying that they should do this. And an interesting little aside about Bernard Jenkins. Many years ago, he met a girl, and Richard Curtis, the writer, was interested in this girl. And Bernard Jenkins won her from Richard Curtis. And Richard Curtis never forgave him. I think they've actually literally just split this week, Bernard and his wife. But Bernard sort of stole this woman away from Richard Curtis, the writer. He's the one who did sort of Four Weddings and a Funeral and Blackadder and things like that. Ever since that moment, everything Richard Curtis has ever written has included a character called Bernard, named after Bernard Jenkins. And Bernard is always seen to be inadequate. He have a very small penis. Or in Blackadder goes forth. Blackadder the 2, Blackadder the 2nd. For example, Bernard is a mad woman. The Nursey's real name is Bernard. And then there's Bernard in Love Actually and Notting Hill, Four Weddings, all these places. And Bernard is always in there. And Bernard is always a terrible, terrible person. And it's all because Richard Curtis has never forgiven Bernard Jenkins and has vowed to kind of eviscerate him in literature, in everything he's written since. It goes to show that Richard Curtis, funny man as he is, really does bear a grudge. Anyway, getting back to the story, that's one of the... I keep doing the tangents. Anyway, Bernard Jenkins said, I start from 3 basic principles. First of all, ministers in the House of Commons owe their position to their membership and the House and are answerable to it. Secondly, all MPs should be treated equally under the rules. And thirdly, the public has the right to know as close to real time as possible of any financial interest that might reasonably be thought of to influence an MP's speech, actions, decisions or votes. And he's quite right. I won't go through the rest of it. It's just talking about the different rules and things. But he's quite right. These MPs, particularly the government, members of the government, will not have to declare this. They had the option last night of saying, actually, yes, we will be free and open and transparent and make it look as though we do our jobs and we're not greedy people. And they voted against it because they can't help themselves, because they are all awful, awful people who are greedy, greedy people who want to be corrupt, who want these freebies because they know that they've got this power and people will give them things because of that. And that is why I, like so many other people, and I'm like sure many of you, my wonderful viewers, all believe that MPs are just scum. Anyway, I shall finish there, round off and come up. So what do we think? Are MPs institutionally corrupt or are they individually corrupt? You decide. No, it's worse than that. It's worse than you think. They are both individually corrupt and institutionally corrupt, but the whole system is corrupt. The whole system is designed to hide the truth from the people who elect them, the people who pay their wages. It needs much stricter rules. A £20 limit, I think that would be fair. You get 72 hours to pay it. And other than that, anything over 20 quid that is handed to you, you refuse. And if you don't refuse, then that is corruption and you are prosecuted for corruption and you do jail time. And that will start to clean out this disgusting mess that is Parliament. Anyway, I shall round off there. Thank you very much for listening. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, can you hear my dog? He's got the big scratches on. Barnsley, come here. He's a pain. He really is. In the middle of recording, and that's when he says, I'm going to have a scratch. Anyway, if you like what you're seeing here on the channel, do hit the subscribe button. Ring the bell for notifications. Leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. Definitely share the video, because they're all crap buggers and we need to get this out. And until next time, stay safe, stay well. Don't trust a politician, because they're all greedy, grasping bastards. And goodbye.